Embryo adoption touched her life so much, she has decided to help others by writing a couple of books about embryo adoption. I'm talking about Savannah Hansen. She's a National Embryo Donation Center mom, and she is my guest today on the Embryo Adoption Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Mellinger. The Embryo Adoption Podcast is brought to you by the National Embryo Donation Center. You can find out more about us at embryodonation.org. Savannah, let's start by describing your own embryo adoption journey with the NEDC.
Of course. My husband and I got married in 2015. And like everybody else, we just thought that it was going to be so easy and we were going to have a family and it was going to be a breeze. That did not happen. And I was 18 at the time. My husband was 19. So we were young and thought that, of course, you're going to have a big family until the doctors told us we would never have biological children. Which was a hard pill to swallow. But I had actually found the NEDC a few years before we ever contacted you guys, because we were still pursuing fertility treatment and trying everything under the sun to get there until we really just felt God shut that door and say, no, this is what I want for you. And so we did, and it went very quickly. It was amazing. It was so fast. And then before we knew it, we had adopted 8 precious embryos and had our first transfer. And I was pregnant with my precious little babies. And then, from there, it's just been a wild ride. We've had a few transfers. I'm pregnant with baby number 2 now. So it's been the best thing that we could have ever done. It's been amazing.
Now, do you mind talking about Declan a little bit? Your first NEDC baby?
Of course. Declan is the best baby I've just ever experienced, ever been around. And of course, I am partial, of course. But everyone says it because he's the sweetest, most caring, gentle soul that he wants everyone to be included. He checks on you. If anyone's crying, he'll run up to you and touch your face and say, are you okay? And he's just the sweetest thing. We have been so blessed. We know that God really directed us in terms of the donor family and who we were meant to choose. We have an open adoption with them, and it is beautiful, and I love them to pieces. But he has just been such a blessing to us, to them. It was everything we could have ever imagined and more. He's the light of our life, and our entire church call him the church's baby. Like, we can't claim him. He's everybody's baby. So they're like, no, give me my baby. So he's 2 now. He'll be 3 in December, and it was so fast, a blink of an eye, but he is just the best.
He's going to be a great big brother, and I'm sure he's looking forward to that. Does he sort of get it?
Oh, he gets it. He talks about the baby in my belly every day and asks for the baby to come out of my belly. So that way baby can be home with us and in the car with us and everywhere with us. And he shares his water. He'll run up with his water and put it on my belly. And he goes, baby, drink water. I'm like, that's right. Baby needs water. And even sonograms and everything, he'll look at the screen and he goes, baby's swimming in the water. And I was like, yes, baby, the baby is in the water. He's so excited. He can't wait.
Oh, this is just gonna be great. I love it. So let's, before we talk about each book individually, let's just start with the concept. Like, when and why did you decide you wanted to write children's books on this?
So the dream itself, to ever even write a children's book, started back when I was a child. Actually, that was something that I had already held dear to me. I love to write, but that's something, as a child, you think, okay, well, that's a dream that we'll just forget about, and it's not going to, it won't go anywhere. And then while facing all of the years of infertility and going through that and just knowing how isolating it was and seeing all of the other couples and young women in the clinics who were clearly facing so much emotional distress and in there and didn't want to talk to anybody because of the shame and didn't want to do all these things. I was like, man, we need more resources in this area. And then when we found NEDC and we went through that process and just looking to see, okay, what are all of these resources? Because we chose open adoption and we want it to always be something that our children know, and we want them to understand the concept in a way that makes sense to them, so that way as they grow they can ask more questions. And there weren't many. You guys provide the resources of some books that other parents have written, and that was a huge thing. I bought all of them immediately. But I just knew that it was still something that was so nobody talked about. And even what a blessing to have Declan in the world, because it opens up so many conversations, and I tell everybody about his story, and so many people don't know about it. And it was really then that I was like, no, something needs to change. There are so many babies waiting to have a chance to live this life, and people should know about it, because I've talked to so many people who had faced infertility years and years prior, and they said, I wish that I would have known about this option. I would have chosen that. Now I have no children. I didn't get to experience any of that, and it's so devastating to me because it's such a beautiful option. And so I knew that for my children, I wanted to have more resources. And so I still kind of put it on the back burner, was like, I'm just being a mom and living the life that I've always wanted. And this is just so amazing. Until one night, God would not let me sleep and kept giving me the title of these books. And I'm like, okay, God, like, I get it. I'm going to go to bed now, And he was like, no, you're not. So I rolled over and I was like, okay, let me just get out my phone, just the notes app on the phone. I'll type what you tell me to type, and then I'll go to bed. And it was a good 15 minutes later. It happened 2 nights in a row with each book. And 15 minutes. And then a week and a half later, I was published. It was insane. It was insane.
That's crazy.
Yes. And that's why I'm like, you know what? Like, God, you have a purpose for these books. And even if it just touches one family, that's worth it. It's fine.
Amen. And by the way, both books, and we'll get to them here in a second, both are available on the NEDC website. At least we have links to both of them. If you go to our books section, we have 5 books on there, and Savannah's are 2 of them. They're called The Greatest Gift and The Miracle of You. And I can tell you, Savannah, that our ladies in the back, well, that's how I refer to them.
Yeah.
Our ladies in the back. That means nothing to anybody, but our patient coordination team, looked at one of the books, The Miracle of You, and they were crying at the end of it. So you have already touched some people, and we've reviewed these books. We love them. So I want you to go through and just describe each of them, The Greatest Gift and The Miracle of You. Why don't you start with The Greatest Gift?
Okay, perfect. So The Greatest Gift is definitely the story specifically geared for embryo adoption, or adoption in any way, honestly. But specifically, I wanted to make sure that parents could read it to their children, and children could identify, like, oh my goodness, this is like my story, and this is how you tell me I came about. And over time, as you grasp deeper understanding, and they can ask more questions of, okay, well, what does this symbolize? So The Greatest Gift is about a carrot couple, and they want to start a garden and grow some carrots because, of course, why wouldn't you? They're the best. And they have some trouble, but their friends across the way do not. And they find themselves on this journey of embryo adoption, and they adopt these precious little carrots who come about, and it is a celebration of families grown in ways that are non-traditional but beautiful and specifically designed the way that they're meant to be. But yeah, it's pretty simple. It's sweet. It's for your little ones, but it's definitely from the heart. So
And The Miracle of You is more of a people book in the sense that the character in it is not a vegetable. The character in it
Correct.
is an actual human being, and that's what the pictures look like. Describe that book.
So The Miracle of You, I wanted it to be something that, I imagined the next morning after I read it in the notes app on my phone. I read it and I just thought, I would read this to my son. I would read this to Declan at night or in the morning or before a nap or whenever. I would read this to him. And I just thought, wow, what a good way to show your children how deeply you've desired them and how wanted they are and how loved they are. In society, I feel like people lose that perspective a lot of the time, and so many people do feel unwanted or do feel like, man, this isn't the life that I should have had, And I wanted it to always come for parents to be able to have the opportunity to tell their children, no. Even if they never faced infertility, even if they didn't wait years upon years to have these children in their arms, but if they have desired and wanted them and loved them since before they even existed. I wanted children to understand that from a young age, even if that was, you start reading this to your infant. And then later on, it's like, oh my goodness, I read this to you every night when you were 3 months old and you just stared at me because you couldn't do anything else. And, but it is just a celebration of that beautiful life that is here, and letting them know that regardless, however they came about, whether it was easy, whether it was hard, whether it was years, whether it wasn't, that they are loved and wanted. And I wanted to make sure that when I saw it, I could identify my son in it. But when I hired the illustrator, I was like, listen, these are some reference pictures, but I don't want it to be exactly my son. I was like, I want it to be anybody could see their kid. And but yeah, I just wanted it to be a resource for parents to be able to read to their kids and say, hey, I love you and I cherish you, and you are not only an answered prayer, and for some people they don't live that life and they don't believe the way that we believe, but I guarantee you their children are precious to them just like ours are to us. And so I wanted it to be able to be that for people.
And it is, and you're absolutely right. You do not have to have gone through embryo adoption or even infertility at all for that book to be a really salient one that's going to resonate with parents and kids. So I want you to unpack the process of putting these books together, because you said it happened really quickly, and I just think this would be an interesting process to learn about. So sort of unpack it from, well, okay, you talked about the writing. You basically wrote it in your notes app on your phone, which is awesome that you can do that these days. So take me from that point to finding an illustrator to finding a publisher. What was that like?
Right. So I wrote the books in the notes app, and you think, oh, it was late at night, it's probably garbage, I'll look over it in the morning. And I remember reading them and just thinking to myself, okay, well, I would read that to my son. And so I just sent it to my family without any context. I just sent it to them. And they messaged me back, and they were actually coming to North Carolina within a few months for my son's first birthday. And so they're like, oh, that's really nice. Where did you find that? Are you going to read that at the birthday party or something? And I was like, oh, no, I wrote it. And then it was like, well, wait a minute, you wrote it? And I'm like, yes, I did. And so when I realized, I was like, okay, well, somebody else could believe in this too. Somebody else, okay, we'll see. And so I just kind of left them, and I was like, all right. So a week later, I told my husband, I was like, listen, what do you think about this? If I just reach out, if I find a publisher that I feel like, hey, I'm meant to go this route, or with them, I'll look at some. What do you feel about us pursuing this? And he was like, absolutely. Do it, make the call, do whatever you need to do, because this is great. This will be a great option. And so I called and I got into contact with Christian Faith Publishing, and the lady was so sweet, and she was like, yeah, just send me them, and of course it was a very rough draft. I was like, of course, yeah, I'll type them up on my computer really fast and kind of tell you what I would assume or like the images to be, or what I envision in my mind. And so I typed it all out and I sent them to her that day. And she called me back and she said, we want both of them. And I was floored because I'm preparing myself for the, okay, honey, no. so I'm like, oh wait, are you sure? Do you have the right person? Are you meant to be calling me? Like, my name's Savannah. She's like, yes, honey, we want both of them. And so it was such a whirlwind. It was crazy. But we started right away. We just jumped right into it. And I remember for the greatest gift, I was going to use their illustrators because of the style of book that it was. And I really wanted it to be something that you could identify and a kid could look at and be like, I want the carrot book. I wanted it to be something that would draw their attention. For the Miracle of You, I wanted something very specific, and I wanted it to be I wanted the artwork to be nostalgic in a way that I was read books from my grandma, and the style of art that isn't seen anymore today. I wanted that desperately, because those are the books that I reach for, that I grab, and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. Oh, I'm going to have this for my kids. And so I actually downloaded a few apps and went online and went to go look for people who were advertising their services on, in artwork and all these other things. And I found this beautiful young lady named Elena from Russia. And I messaged her, and all she had on her profile and was actually animals. She did a lot of nature drawings and paintings and everything, but I could see the style in there. And so I messaged her and I said, hey, this is something that I'm wanting to do. Have you ever drawn people before? No. The answer was no, she had not. And so I kind of explained to her what I wanted, and she was like, okay, well, let me try it, and I'll get back to you in a few days. I was like, of course. She sent me a message back, and immediately I knew that it had to be her. And because it was I immediately was like, I want to reach and I want to grab that picture and I want to keep it and I want to have it. And so I went through the process with her of telling her every page what I wanted, the details of, okay, in this, I want their eye color to be this. I want their hair color to be this. I want on this page different hair colors, different eye colors, because they don't know what their kid is going to look like. And, that's the beauty of adoption. And just all of these things. And she was so sweet and so wonderful to work with. And at the end of it, I paid her and she gave me all of the files. And talk about a God moment too, because it was right before everything happened with Ukraine. And so they shut everything down. They canceled all of their profiles. And so I got all of the illustrations a week before that happened, I think, and I wouldn't have been able to get it otherwise.
Just in time. Wow.
Oh, just in time. And it was like that throughout the entire process. So it was really, and just like our process going through the NEDC, everything was so God, everything. So it's nice to look back and just see, I'm like, okay, God, thank you. Thank you for your hand in that.
Yeah, well, she did a great job. The pictures are captivating, and you're right. As I think about it, it is drawn in more of that older style, and those things do stick with you. So this is important. I mean, I'm quite a bit older than you are, and I mean, I can still remember, decades ago, the books that my parents, some of them, read to me when I was just a little kid, Declan's age, like Goodnight Moon and the Mother Goose stuff and the Arch Christian books. I mean, I'm 47 years old, and I can still remember how formative and important those were, and they have really good memories attached to them. So it's great that you're involved now in doing such work that's going to have significant impact and resonance throughout people's lives. That's really so meaningful, Savannah. So I'm glad you've done this. It's awesome. What have the responses to the books been like so far?
Oh, it's been wonderful. I actually, I just went to California where all of my family is for a month. And I had a woman come up to me who goes to my mother's church. And she has a ton of children, most of whom were adopted. Not embryo adoption in any way, but I just remember her coming up to me and crying. And of course, then I start crying because that's all I wanted for these books. But she just said, I'm so excited because I have something to read to my babies that not only says, how beautiful our family is in the way that it has been created, but how loved they are, not only by us, but by God, and that they were placed here for a reason. Because I think that can be hard, to when there's been difficulties in life. But she said to have it from the perspective of, our faith and knowing that they are precious and they are wonderful, but being able to tell them that in ways that they understand and they can see, and they're like, oh, okay, well, the carrots had a family that came together differently, but it's okay because they're beautiful and they love each other, and it works out. So now I guess her kids asked for the carrot book, which is so heartwarming to me. But it's been so beautiful. I've had so many people who have been so supportive and immediately just will be like, oh, I got my copy, or oh, I got this. And it's beautiful. And I cried. And I just, it gives people perspective as well, and a little bit more compassion in areas that they don't quite understand. And I think that's important as well, as people, family members, friends that walk along couples who face a life like this. And it helps to bring that perspective of, oh, I wouldn't have ever guessed, that this is how or what it might be like. And it helps bring that to adults as well.
And do you read them to Declan?
Oh, yes. Of course. Yeah, he absolutely loves books. He is a reader. We have books all over the house. He has a ridiculous amount. But yes, I read them to him, and I love it because every time he sees The Miracle of You, he'll point, he goes, oh, Declan, ooh, me. And I'm like, yes, baby. And he'll look and he'll point, he goes, you. I'm like, yes, baby, it's you. He loves it.
Oh, that is just great. I absolutely love it. Yeah, it's true what they say. There's no friend as loyal as a good book. So you're doing a good work in raising a reader there. The books again are called The Greatest Gift and The Miracle of You. You can get them at Amazon, basically anywhere that sells books online. And again, you can go to embryodonation.org. That's the NEDC's website. Just click on the book section and you'll see them there. We have links where you can buy them. So I think you'll really enjoy them. It's a great resource for embryo adoption parents or just any parents. So again, it's The Greatest Gift and The Miracle of You by Savannah Hansen, who has been my guest. It has been a delight to talk with you, Savannah. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me and for all you do.
You bet, and we continue to pray for a safe, healthy conclusion to your pregnancy. We can't wait to see pictures of the new baby. This has been the Embryo Adoption Podcast. Again, more information at embryodonation.org. I'm Mark Mellinger. We look forward to talking with you next time.